That jar sitting in your refrigerator may not be the same product you remember. I spent 6 weeks tracing when some of America's most trusted mayonnaise brands shifted their formulas, and 5 of them may not appreciate what this video reveals. Number 1, Hellmann's, the American classic that changed for generations. That blue and cream label has had a place in American refrigerators. The story began in 1905 when Richard Hellmann, a German immigrant, opened a deli in New York City and began selling his wife's homemade mayonnaise from the counter. People liked it so much that he started packing it into jars. By the 1970s, Hellmann's had become the top-selling mayonnaise in the country, showing up in more American kitchens than any other brand. That history is true. The tradition is real. But what came later is the part that rarely appears in the warm, old-fashioned brand story. In 2000, Unilever, the British-Dutch global company behind products like Dove, Axe, and Ben & Jerry's, bought the brand for $2.3 billion. When a company that large takes over a beloved food name, the business pressure is simple. Look for every spot where a real ingredient can be swapped for a lower-cost option without upsetting enough shoppers to hurt sales. The formula does not usually change all at once. That is not how big food companies normally cut costs. It happens slowly, in quiet steps over time. 1 quarter may bring a less expensive oil blend. Months later, a new stabilizer may appear to help shelf life and reduce shipping losses. Inside the company, each adjustment can be described as an improvement, but the shoppers paying for the brand often never notice the shift. Today, Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise uses soybean oil as its main fat, a common refined oil used throughout the American food industry. It also includes calcium disodium EDTA, a synthetic preservative that helps keep the oil from developing stale flavors before the jar reaches store shelves. Without that kind of help, refined soybean oil can start tasting off not long after production. The label also lists natural flavors, a broad FDA category that can include many flavor compounds used to cover the plain taste that comes from lower-cost ingredients. The jar still carries the words Real Mayonnaise in the familiar colors and lettering that helped build trust for many years. Under today's FDA rules, that name is legally allowed, but real and authentic are not always the same thing. Since 2022, customer comments have repeated the same concerns: a stale aftertaste, a looser texture, a flavor that no longer feels like the Hellmann's they remember from childhood. Those shoppers are not simply being nostalgic. The product many families trusted for decades is not the same as what Unilever now sells under that old name. In a simple playtest, the current Hellmann's spreads out fully in about 20 seconds. Number 2, Kraft Real Mayo, the label that does the talking. Kraft has become very skilled at one particular food business strategy: let the product name carry the feeling of trust while the recipe itself does very little to earn it. The word real sits clearly on the front of the jar, but it is not a statement about ingredient quality. It is not a promise about how the product is made. It is a legal category. Under current FDA rules, Kraft can call this product Real Mayonnaise. The company uses that word knowing many shoppers will hear it as a sign of quality, not as a regulatory term. Turn the jar around and you can see what real means in this case. The first oil is soybean oil, the same refined base used widely in major grocery store condiments. Eggs appear third on the ingredient list, after both oil and water. Under FDA labeling rules, that means there is less egg by weight than either oil or water. The recipe uses just enough egg to meet the legal definition of mayonnaise, not more than the standard requires. So what makes up the difference between the thick, creamy texture that enough egg would create and the lighter product that comes from using less egg? Modified food starch, a manufactured thickener that copies some of the feel of an egg-rich mayonnaise without the same cost. Nutrition, or full flavor of real eggs. This is where Kraft Mayo can become a problem for your summer cookout. Modified food starch is made to behave under controlled processing conditions. It is not always built for the heat and handling that happen in a real home kitchen. When you make potato salad with Kraft Mayo, and that bowl sits outside in July warmth, around 85 degrees in direct sun for 2 hours while relatives arrive and settle in, the modified food starch can begin to lose its structure. The added thickness fades. The mixture that never had true richness starts separating into its parts. The potato salad turns watery and uneven, making the whole dish look like something went wrong. Home cooks often blame themselves. They question the recipe, the method, or the kind of potatoes they used. They try again the next summer with the same jar and get the same result. Then they decide potato salad just is not their strength and stop making it. But the issue was not their cooking. Modified food starch does not hold an emulsion under heat stress the same way real eggs can. Mayonnaise made with enough egg has a better chance of keeping its texture in outdoor warmth because eggs form a true emulsion that can stay steady through normal serving temperatures. This is not simply a budget mayonnaise that uses a few lower-cost ingredients. It is a mayonnaise-style spread designed to meet the lowest legal standard while protecting profit margins through repeated ingredient changes, then sold with wording that leads shoppers to believe they are buying something closer to the original. Number 3, Duke's, the use of old memories. This one may sting more than the others, especially for people from the South. Because Duke's did not only create a product, it created a deep sense of trust around honest food. Eugenia Duke began making her mayonnaise in 1,917 inches, Greenville, South Carolina, when she sold sandwiches to soldiers at Camp Sevier as they prepared for service in World War I. The soldiers liked her mayonnaise so much that she grew it into a regional business. No sugar. No compromise became more than a slogan. It became a statement about what real food was supposed to mean. That same story has appeared on jars and in advertising for the past 2 decades. Duke's built a loyal regional following by presenting itself as the genuine choice that never gave in. But many devoted buyers do not know what changed behind the label. C.F. Sauer Company, the Richmond family-owned business that had long cared for Duke's and respected the original formula, sold the brand to Falfurrias Capital Partners, a private equity firm, in 2017. Firms like that do not buy cherished regional food brands because they are passionate about mayonnaise or Southern food traditions. They buy them because analysts see a customer base with strong emotional loyalty to a name, along with opportunities to improve margins across the supply chain. Put simply, they see shoppers who buy from trust instead of reading the ingredient panel closely. And they see ways to lower production costs without immediately losing those loyal customers. 18 months after the sale, Duke's was using soybean oil as its main fat, the same refined oil base found in Hellmann's, Kraft, and many other large grocery store brands. It also contains potassium sorbate, a synthetic preservative. The share of egg yolk compared with the full product appears to have been quietly lowered to reduce cost per jar while still meeting the rules that allow it to be called mayonnaise. The texture feels thinner, less rich, and less full. The taste has become flatter in the familiar way that happens when higher quality ingredients are replaced with cheaper ones. The no sugar claim is still technically true, and it remains easy to see because it is the main reason the brand stands apart. But that one honest point now helps hide the other ingredient changes that have weakened what Duke's was supposed to stand for. They kept the mason jar look, the Eugenia Duke origin story, and every part of the brand image that keeps customers emotionally attached, while changing the supply chain choices that once supported that story. For Southern shoppers who have defended Duke's in grocery store aisles for 40 years, it can feel like a piece of food culture sold back to them in familiar packaging. Number 4, Miracle Whip. The labeling work around Miracle Whip is not legally sold as mayonnaise. And that detail says a lot about what the product is compared with what Kraft has taught shoppers to believe for nearly 90 years. The FDA requires mayonnaise to contain at least 65% oil by weight. Miracle Whip is below that level, which is why the front label calls it dressing instead of mayonnaise. Still, Kraft places it in the mayonnaise aisle, promotes it as something people can use in place of mayonnaise, and puts it right beside real mayonnaise on grocery store shelves. That lower oil content changes the ingredient picture in a meaningful way. When a product uses less oil than the mayonnaise standard requires, the missing volume and weight have to come from somewhere else. In Miracle Whip, that means water and sugar, including high fructose corn syrup, with about 2 grams of sugar in each tablespoon compared with 0 in traditional mayonnaise. For people watching blood sugar or trying to cut back on added sugar at home, that difference matters. Think about a normal summer weekend in a home that uses Miracle Whip the way others use mayonnaise. Saturday potato salad takes 4 tablespoons, adding 8 grams of sugar. Sunday coleslaw uses 3 tablespoons, adding 6 more grams. Monday leftover sandwiches use 2 tablespoons at lunch and dinner, adding 8 more grams. By Tuesday, the household has eaten 22 grams of added sugar they may never have counted because they thought they were using mayonnaise. The American Heart Association recommends that women limit added sugar to no more than 24 grams per day in total over one weekend. Miracle Whip by itself comes close to that full daily amount. The full ingredient list begins with water, soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, vinegar, modified cornstarch, eggs, salt, natural flavor, mustard flour, potassium sorbate, paprika, spice, and dried garlic. Notice what comes before eggs: water, soybean oil, high fructose corn syrup, vinegar, and modified cornstarch all appear first. Eggs, the ingredient that helps define mayonnaise, show up. Sixth, Miracle Whip is mostly sweetened water and lower cost oil, with a smaller amount of egg included to fit its product style. Kraft has spent generations teaching Americans to accept a sweetened spread as a stand-in for mayonnaise. Number 5, Great Value, the lowest shelf standard. Great Value mayonnaise shows what can be produced and sold as mayonnaise when the goal is to meet the basic federal definition at the lowest possible cost. This is not about criticizing families who shop on a budget. It is about describing what happens when every ingredient choice starts with one question. What is the least expensive way to make a product that still passes the federal rules for mayonnaise? The soybean oil is a bulk commodity oil, the kind used when price matters more than premium quality. It is processed for high yield and refined for cost efficiency. The egg content is measured close to the minimum needed for FDA mayonnaise classification, with no extra egg added beyond what the standard requires. Cellulose gum, a thickening fiber often made from plant material, takes the place of some of the natural creaminess that comes from a stronger oil and egg emulsion. The preservative load is heavier because lower cost ingredients can lose quality faster, which means the product needs more help staying stable on the shelf, at 11 cents per ounce compared with 18 to 28 cents for better brands. The savings over a full summer may come to about $8 to $12 for a typical household. That is the real price difference when choosing Great Value instead of a more authentic mayonnaise. For perspective, it is less than one fast casual lunch spread across 3 months of grocery shopping. Try the plate test. Great value mayo will struggle to keep its shape for even 10 seconds because it is not really the kind of product the label leads you to expect. Before I show you the 5 brands still worth bringing home, the ones I would feel comfortable putting on my own table, subscribe and turn on the bell if this kind of food investigation helps you make better choices for your family. Every week, we look closely at what is really sitting in the refrigerator. These next 5 brands are the reason this video matters. Number 5, Primal Kitchen Avocado Oil Mayo, the modern standard. Mark Sisson founded Primal Kitchen in 2015 to answer one simple question: what would mayonnaise look like if it were made with the best oil available instead of the cheapest oil possible? The result was avocado oil mayo. It uses cold-pressed, lightly processed oil built around the same monounsaturated fats often recommended in heart-healthy eating. The ingredient list has only 6 parts: avocado oil, organic eggs, organic egg yolks, organic vinegar, sea salt, and organic rosemary extract for natural preservation. No synthetic preservatives, no modified starches, and no additives. The rosemary extract helps preserve the product in the role that calcium disodium EDTA plays in cheaper brands, but without the same synthetic approach. In the plate test, Primal Kitchen stays in a firm mound for well over a minute because it is made with a real egg emulsion and better quality oil. At about 28 cents per ounce, you are not choosing between equal products. You are choosing between real food and a manufactured spread. For summer, potato salad served in warm weather. It brings the kind of flavor that makes people wonder what you changed. The verdict is simple. This is much closer to what mayonnaise was meant to be before cost-cutting reshaped the whole category. Number 4, Sir Kensington's The Better Ingredient Reformer. Sir Kensington's began in 2010 with an idea that should have felt ordinary. What if a grocery store condiment was made with truly good ingredients? 2 college students built the company around the difference between wholesome-looking labels and the ingredient lists behind them. Their classic mayonnaise uses sunflower oil, expeller pressed, which means it is mechanically extracted without hexane chemical solvent, along with free-range eggs, distilled vinegar, and lemon juice. The sunflower oil gives it a lighter and more neutral taste than avocado oil, which makes it especially useful in potato salad when you want the mayonnaise to support the other flavors instead of standing in front of them. The texture difference is easy to notice. It does not separate or release water when stirred into warm potatoes. One of the most common summer kitchen problems that home cooks often blame on their own method, when the real issue is the mayonnaise. Sir Kensington's helps avoid that because the emulsion is made with real eggs and holds up under normal cooking conditions. Number 3, Chosen Foods. Clean ingredients at a fair price. Chosen Foods sits in the middle ground between premium quality and a price many households can still consider. Their avocado oil mayo uses 100% pure avocado oil, not a blend with soybean oil, which some brands use so they can put avocado on the label while keeping costs lower. The ingredient list is simple: avocado oil, cage-free eggs, egg yolks, distilled vinegar, sea salt, and rosemary extract. It is non-GMO, verified and certified gluten-free, with a clean and truly neutral flavor. The avocado oil does not take over. It tastes like very good mayonnaise, rich, creamy, and full without feeling heavy. At around 24 cents per ounce, the difference between Chosen Foods and industrial brands is usually less than $1 per jar. That small difference gives you real eggs instead of minimum level egg content, quality oil instead of commodity soybean oil, and a mayonnaise that is far less likely to separate on your table. Number 2, Kewpie, the long-standing Japanese secret. Kewpie has been Japan's leading mayonnaise since 1925. and many professional chefs have used it for years when ordinary mayonnaise did not give them the result they wanted. The main difference is simple. Kewpie is made with egg yolks instead of whole eggs. Egg whites add bulk, but they do very little for flavor or emulsion strength. The yolk contains lecithin, which helps create a steady emulsion, along with the fat-soluble compounds that give mayonnaise its full, rich taste. When American brands use whole eggs, both texture and flavor become more diluted. Kewpie's old formula puts the focus on yolks, creating a mayonnaise that looks more golden, holds together better, and tastes noticeably fuller. It also uses rice vinegar instead of distilled white vinegar, which gives it a softer and more rounded acidity. For anyone who thinks regular American mayonnaise tastes a little sharp, Kewpie may be the answer. You can find it at many major grocery chains for about 23 cents per ounce. The verdict is clear. This is what happens when nearly a century of practice is matched with careful execution. It is the kind of mayonnaise other mayonnaises try to become. Number 1. Spectrum Organics Olive Oil Mayo, the Mediterranean standard. Spectrum has been making certified organic foods since 1986, before organic became a marketing word and when it still meant a serious production promise. Their olive oil mayonnaise follows a Mediterranean tradition where eggs and olive oil have been used together for generations. The organic certification applies across the full supply chain, with no pesticide residues, no GMO crops, and no industrial shortcuts. The olive oil brings natural antioxidant support from its polyphenols, so EDTA is not needed. The taste is different in a good way. The olive oil comes through gently, adding depth and character that soybean oil simply cannot match. Some people like it right away. Others need one full serving to adjust from industrial mayonnaise back to something closer to the real thing. Either way, they understand the difference afterward. 100 years ago, mayonnaise was a recipe. Every home had its own version. The industrial food system taught us to believe that factory consistency was better than homemade quality. For a time, it earned that trust. Then large companies bought the brands and began reducing costs, not in one sudden move, but one ingredient change at a time, slowly enough that loyal shoppers would not easily notice. The weaker brands did not start out that way. They began as real foods made by real people. What changed was the priority behind them. Shelf stability became more important than flavor, and margins became more important than honest ingredients. This summer, when you turn that jar around, and you probably will now, you will see exactly what you are choosing. Real ingredients that make real mayonnaise, or industrial replacements that create a legal version of it. Your family deserves ingredients worthy of the trust they place in your cooking. Which brand surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments and subscribe. We look at the foods in your refrigerator this way, one product at a time. Which brand surprised you the most? Leave your answer below. And be sure to watch one of the 2 videos on your screen now.